Hello everybody, welcome back to Points and Miles 101, a 10-part crash course series to help you better understand the basics of the Points and Miles game. In our last video, we explored what transferable points are, as well as took a look at the various credit card issuers, as well as their transfer partners. In today's video, we will continue that discussion and take a look at the various credit cards that earn these kind of points. Not every credit card on the market earns these kind of points, so it is important to become familiar with the ones that do. Before we take a look at any specific cards, let's first go over how exactly these cards earn these kind of points. At the ground level, no matter which card you use, you will always get at least 1 point for every dollar spent. So let's say you go and get a $15 car wash and pay with your American Express Gold card. You would earn 15 Amex membership rewards points on that purchase. On top of that baseline 1 point per dollar spent, most of these cards have bonus multipliers for certain categories of spend. Looking again at the Amex Gold, this card gives you 4 times the points, or 4x, on all dining purchases. So a $10 bowl at Chipotle would yield you 40 points. Then once you have accrued these points from your everyday spending, you can transfer these points out to the various airline and hotel loyalty programs that each credit card issue partners with. Most of the time, these transfer ratios are 1-to-1, meaning 1,000 points with Amex, for example, would yield you 1,000 miles if transferred to Delta, which is one of their airline partners. This is where the terminology of transferable points is derived. Like I said earlier, our last video, we discussed the different credit card issuers and their transfer partners. So if you haven't already watched that, I would suggest you do that now, as that is the landscape that we're going to be referencing for the rest of this video. I do want to note that there are other ways you can use these points, like statement credits, but for the sake and scope of this series, we're going to just focus on transferring them out to partners, because as you'll come to see, that is where you're going to get the most value out of these points. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. Okay, now let's take a look at each issuer and their lineup of cards. This is all information as of the time of recording, which is November 2024. So I do want to note that this information can and probably will change over time as the issuers tweak their lineup of cards. All right, we'll first start by looking at American Express. They have a total of 7 cards that earn membership rewards points, 3 personal cards, the Platinum, Gold, and Green, and 4 business cards, the Platinum, Gold, Green, and Blue Business Plus. Next, we will take a look at Chase. Their 3 ultimate rewards points earning cards include the Sapphire Reserve and the Sapphire Preferred on the personal side, and the Ink Business Preferred on the business side. Furthermore, we have the Freedom Flex and Freedom Unlimited, as well as the Ink Business Cash and the Ink Business Unlimited. These 4 cards are normally just cashback cards, but if you have one of these in conjunction with one of the top 3 Chase cards, you can convert that cashback into ultimate rewards points that you can transfer out. Citi has 4 personal cards that can earn you thank you points: the Strata Premier, Rewards Plus, Double Cash, and Custom Cash. There is also the Citi Prestige that earns thank you points if you already have it, but it is no longer accepting new applicants. The caveat with Citi is that you have to have either the Strata Premier or the Prestige in order to transfer to their full list of partners. If you only have one of the bottom 3, you can only transfer to a couple of partners at lower rates. Capital One has a total of 6 cards that can earn miles: the Venture X, Venture, and Venture One on the personal side, and the Venture X Business, Spark Miles, and Spark Miles Select on the business side. No special notes here. All cards earn miles and can transfer to all transfer partners on their own. Finally, we'll take a look at Bilt and Wells Fargo together, as they only have a couple of cards between the two. Bilt has one called the Bilt MasterCard, and Wells Fargo has the Autograph Journey and the Autograph. Now, as you probably noticed, almost every one of these cards comes with an annual fee, which is oftentimes a big taboo and turnoff for a lot of people. But I like to view annual fees almost as if they were an investment. You're simply paying X dollars today to get X amount of value down the line. And more often than not, the value that you get out of these cards is way more than the annual fee that you have to pay to have it. In order to understand this, let's compare what you get by using one of these cards, let's say the Chase Sapphire Preferred, versus using a debit card or a standard credit card with no annual fee that offers 1% cash back on all of your purchases. We'll keep things simple here. Let's say you spend about $1,000 per month or $12,000 per year. On an annual basis, what is the value that that you would get back from these purchases? Well, if you are using cash or debit card, there wouldn't be any return. You spend what you spend and that's it. On your 1% cashback card, you would yield 1% return on those purchases, or $120. And then when you use your Chase Sapphire card, you would get 12,000 ultimate rewards points on those purchases, which, like we said before, is the base amount of points you receive on every dollar spent. For argument's sake, let's assume that the value of one ultimate reward point is 1 cent, or again, 1% return for every dollar spent. Remember back in episode 1, we said that we should always be viewing these points as a currency that holds a certain degree of monetary value. I use 1% here because Chase will always give you the option to cash your points out for a statement credit, and 1 cent per point is the conversion that they use, so that should always be your minimum value here. So your $12,000 in purchases would earn you 12,000 points, and we will assume those points are worth $120. Offset the $95 annual fee you had to pay to get the card, and you are left with a net gain value of $25. Now, while you've already offset your annual fee here, you may be thinking, well, the no annual fee cashback card gives me higher net value, so why wouldn't I just use that one instead? Well, let's not forget about the bonus spending categories that come with the Chase card. Of that $12,000 you spent, let's say you spent $3,000 on food and drinks going out with your friends, $100 per month on your favorite streaming services, about $1,800 on travel expenses for a few trips that you went on this year, and $6,000 on everything else. So instead of earning 12,000 points, you would actually be earning 22,200 points, taking into account these bonus category multipliers. Assuming again that these points are valued at 1 cent per point and subtracting away your annual fee, you'd come away with a net gain of $127. But again, all of this is assuming that the value of your Chase points is 1 cent per point. However, the value of those points is totally determined by what you can get with them. Sure, you could cash out these 22,200 points for $220, but you can also transfer these points out to the partners, as we've discussed earlier. So now the question becomes, can you purchase something that is worth more than $220 by way of the transfer partners? Well, of course you can, because I wouldn't be making this video if you couldn't. For example, you could transfer 12,000 points to Air Canada and buy a round-trip flight between Chicago and Cleveland on United. How much would that same flight cost you in cash? Just over $300. So in this case, you've already gotten well north of that $120 that you would have otherwise gotten with that standard cashback card, plus you have over 10,000 points left over. So in reality, these points are worth more than 1% because you should always be able to get more value than that when you redeem them through the transfer partners. And again, what makes these transferable points so valuable is the amount of different avenues you can take to redeem them. If you can't find a good redemption on Air Canada, let's say, well, you've got a ton of other programs you could check to see what their redemptions look like. The final couple episodes of the series will explore how to best find those redemption sweet spots, so we'll leave that point here for now. Spending and bonus categories aren't the only things that provide value on these cards either. Some cards come with statement credits that can help you offset some of these annual fees, like the dining credits on the MX Gold or the TSA PreCheck global entry credits that a few of the credit cards have. How statement credits work is pretty simple. When you pay for those things using your card, you'll simply be reimbursed for those expenses by way of a credit to your bill. Add the value of these credits to the value that you get back by way of your everyday spending, and you can see how quickly and easily you can offset these annual fees. But one thing that is really important to understand is that these bonus categories and statement credits, they only provide you value if it's already stuff that you're spending your money on in the first place. For example, a monthly Dunkin' credit doesn't do you any good if Dunkin' isn't a place that you already frequent. If you don't go to Dunkin' a lot, or you're just going out of your way to go to Dunkin' because you have a credit on your credit card, that doesn't provide you with any value because it's not money that you would have already spent in the first place. Same thing with the bonus categories. You certainly don't want to start spending more money dining out just because you have a credit card that gives you bonus points for it. You should always find the cards that fit within your already established spending habits. You don't want to do it the other way around. Another big part of the value question that we have not touched on yet is sign-up bonuses. I'm sure you see them shoved in your face all the time. 60, 70, 80, 100,000 bonus points if you spend X dollars in X amount of months. Some of you are probably a little bit skeptical and assume there's got to be some sort of catch with that, but to be honest, there there really isn't. Those sign-up bonuses are as advertised, and they obviously provide you with tremendously outsized value the first year that you have the card. We say in the first year because the annual fee that you pay to have the card is recurring. It happens every year. We've already explored how these credit cards can offset their annual fees by means of just normal spending. So it's a no-brainer that when you take into account a sign-up bonus, every single card we mentioned earlier would have its annual fee offset by means of these huge chunks of points. I mean, we've already seen how much you could do with 12,000 points. Imagine what you could do with 120,000 points. You actually don't have to imagine, because if you keep watching the series, I'll show you exactly what you can do with 120,000 points. And spoiler alert, it's a shit ton. It's actually not uncommon for people to apply for a credit card just to get the sign-up bonus, and then after that first year, they will cancel the card because they know that they won't be getting enough value out of it after that first year to offset its annual fee in the years to come. I actually recently did this myself with the Alaska Airlines credit card. I used its sign-up bonus to buy a business class flight from LAX to Sydney, and then after that first year, I canceled the card because I knew I was never going to use it enough to offset the annual fee that I had to pay every year to keep it. Now, before we end this video, I want to make one point abundantly clear. Always, 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 did I mention always? Always pay your credit card bills in full on time every month. No exceptions. Never make a minimum payment and never roll over any balance. If you do this and you do roll over balances, you will get yourself stuck in an endless cycle of credit card debt that is impossible to get out of. This is how the credit card companies win. They prey on the people that cannot make their payments on time. None of this talk about value means anything if you're paying 20% interest on rollover credit card balances. So please do not apply for any of these credit cards, or any credit card for that matter, if you know that you'll struggle to make your monthly payments on time. Start off first by building good spending habits with a debit card and get comfortable with spending within your means. Only then should you start to dive into this world of credit cards. Again, transferable points are only one piece to this points and miles puzzle. You can certainly still play this game and earn points and miles without ever having to get involved with credit cards. So don't feel like you're missing out if you don't have one of these cards. No amount of points is worth more than keeping yourself financially safe and secure. Anyways, that is going to wrap up our conversation on transferable points credit cards. In our next video, we will stay within the credit card realm, but instead focus on the various co-branded airline and hotel credit cards that are out there. So be sure to stay tuned for that, coming soon. As always, thank you so much for watching. We will catch you in the next.